Welcome to our Girls in Tech Ambassador Series. Today we've got Nicole with us from the Girls in Tech South Africa board, and obviously myself. And then we're really delighted today to welcome Radiyya from W30 Labs. I just had to have a look at my notes. and
Hi.
Radiyya, you're involved in the blockchain mystery sector, which really does remain a mystery to most of us. So we're really excited to hear a little bit more about that today, but mostly just to get to know you. So welcome, and really looking forward to hearing your story. And thank you for being here.
No, thank you guys for having me. I'm super excited to share what I can. And that's funny, I think I agree with you. There's a reason they call it cryptocurrencies. It's definitely a mystery space, even to me at times. So yeah, it's going to be exciting to talk about it.
Very cool topic. So, Radiyya, tell us about your role. What is it that you do? What does it mean day to day? And maybe also, how did you actually get here? What did you study to get to this place?
Okay, so I'm currently the head of partnerships and marketing at W30. So, just off the bat, that doesn't sound very tech related. But like Monique did say, it is a blockchain services company. So what I basically do is, so within the lab, we have our own services. We have B2B services, B2C services. We create our own apps, but then we also service, our B2B clients. They have their own products, and then we just need to service it. So in order for me to, build a partnership from scratch or market something that's never existed in the market before, I do need to have a bit of a good technical background. So on a day-to-day basis, a lot of it is research-based, learning what exactly does this product do? What are the selling points? How can people buy into this? And, researching other companies that we want to build partnerships with. A lot of it is being a sales agent. That's what partnerships and marketing is. It's a very people-facing, a very, extroverted role. So during the day, I'm speaking to people a lot. And then a fun side of it is I get to do quite creative stuff because I sort of say, well, we're marketing this AI tool. I want the direction to look like this. I want it to visually look like that. So that's, I would say, my favorite part of what I do. And I think altogether, it's just a mix of everything, learning something new basically every day, speaking to a lot of interesting people, and just having a creative outlet. How I got here is a very, not complicated story, but let's say a long story. So after high school, I had no sort of idea what I wanted to do. And I started studying speech and hearing therapy.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
in Johannesburg at Wits University, and I was like, I didn't like it. It was just a lot, but it was very interesting. And after a while, my life was just a bit all over the place, and I wasn't managing, keeping up with the demands of varsity. So I was like, no, I need a break. So my parents are like, okay, temporary break. You can't quit forever.
There's a timeline on it.
Yes. So I ended up taking a break for like 4 or 5 years, actually. So I took a break for maybe 6 months, and they were like, okay, you need to go back. And I was like, I don't want to. I actually just want to travel and figure myself out a bit because I don't want to do that, but I need to learn what I want to do. And they were like, but that's not having a plan. You need to have a plan. And I guess I could agree with that because traveling isn't cheap. You need some sort of way to like make sure you can eat and have a roof above your head. So I became a model. And during that time, I would say that's sort of where I learned marketing, like without even knowing that's what I was learning.
And in between, market yourself, don't you?
Exactly.
Get out there. This is a really fascinating story. I did not expect you to have this background.
Yeah, so I was, it was such an exciting time. I went to Paris, I went to Spain, I went to London. I was moving Germany. I was moving around a lot. Like I was a bit of a nomad. And in between all of that, I was doing other things too. I actually volunteered at a nonprofit that actually offers mentorship programs to underprivileged youth. I was in London, and that's sort of where I learned I like this. What they had me do was a sort of freelance partnerships role. I had no idea what to do. I learned on the job, and it was so exciting. That's why I really loved it, and that's when I was like, okay, I know what I want to do more or less. It's time to go and be serious again. So I came back home and went back to study, but this time I was like, no speech and hearing, I can't do that. I had a bunch of credits for a BA, which would mean I'd only need to study for 1 more year. So I just finished my BA. And then I was like, sheesh, how am I going to turn this into something in this job that I want to do? So initially I started looking for jobs, in nonprofit spaces, and I wasn't finding any luck. And a friend of mine was starting this company, W30 Labs, and he was like, I could use the help if you want to give it. It's a startup, so I can't say you're going to make any money out of it right now. But if you have the time and you're willing, it could be something great for your CV. So I was like, actually, yeah, why not? And in my time modeling, you learn, well, yes, how to handle your finances, but also a lot of the time it's not in your control, and you're having to chase people like, did so and so pay you so you can pay me? And that was a very frustrating thing. So when this friend of mine explained the blockchain to me, and he was like, there's a way to do away with all of that, like to have this transparency. So he explained the technology to me, and I was like, that is such a needed thing in my life. So I can imagine, in general, how many people need this. So once I was sold on the technology, I was really sold on the role. And that's how I ended up here.
What a brilliant background. I mean, really, I think you mentioned earlier something about learning every day. So when you were traveling and then transitioning into modeling, like that ability to learn every day, we do hear that quite regularly in our sort of ambassador series talks with different roles in tech. And I can definitely say for myself, I don't know about you, Nicole, that's definitely a central theme in anyone who's working in this tech industry, that like desire to just go, I don't necessarily know how this works, but I'm going to go find out. And I think,
Absolutely.
yeah, anyone listening who has, if you have that kind of mindset, tech probably needs you. Because what exists today didn't necessarily exist 5 years ago or even 2 years ago. It evolved so rapidly. So that's really nice to hear you say that. And anyone who's got a curious mindset or just that way of living, of going, I like to learn on the job, nice to get that encouragement from you that there could be a home for them in tech. Is there something that you think you have done, or something in particular that you think really helped you get to where you are now, and that might be good for someone else to be aware of if they're looking at going down this career path?
What I would say is, okay, now I'm able to put it in a really nice way, but along the way, I can't say I was telling it to myself in this way. But anyone listening to my story is probably like, sheesh, this girl was just having her head in the clouds and she had no plan whatsoever. And now when I think of it, I didn't ever cap myself, and I didn't ever say to myself, your dreams are this and the roof is here. So make sure it, at a certain point you tell yourself, okay, enough. I didn't ever say that to myself. And when I think about my future, I think about, I don't ever want to put a roof on myself, and I don't want to ever limit myself. I mean, even now, like, yes, I love what I do and I'm enjoying it, but I know that there's so much more still I can do, still to be done. And that's where, learning something new every day so often comes in. And I think to anyone watching this and listening, don't put a roof on yourself, even if it sounds outrageous. The fact that you could think of it, there is a way to get there. Maybe you just need to like refine what the path looks like or what exactly the end goal looks like, but don't limit yourself.
I love that. I mean, to Monique's point about tech needs you if you're a creative person. I also think that tech needs you if you're brave and courageous. And, I think that's what resonated with me with what you were saying. I mean, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your younger self?
Oof, that's a hard one. um, well, I would tell my younger self that it's important to have a rough plan. A lot of the time I was just blindly just going. I didn't know what. It felt like I was in a dark tunnel. Even with the whole, okay, I didn't necessarily want to go to university, but it was something that was important to my parents. They wanted me to have some sort of a future. So I think, have a rough plan from the time you finish school, even if it's just for a year, for 2 years. It's very important to have that so you don't ever find yourself in a place like, okay, I've gone too far, I don't know how to come back. Or, a lot of the time we hear people saying, oh, it's too late for me to do that now, or I'm too old, I can't start something new. But, had we had a different plan for ourselves, we might be in a different situation.
Okay, so what would you, I guess, do differently if given the opportunity? Would you do anything differently?
Yes, definitely. I don't regret any of it. I mean, it's been a very turbulent ride, but it's been all enjoyable. I just think from the get-go, I would have probably studied something entirely different. Maybe not even, but maybe I would have entered the working world immediately, doing more meaningful internships or volunteer work, things like that. And I think my path would have been very different, but so much more clearer, because in a lot of ways I have felt like I've limited myself. For example, starting off with studying speech and hearing therapy, that's something so highly specialized that when I did want to go back to university, didn't have a lot of room or time. For example, I didn't want to spend another 4 to 7 years studying from scratch, but I limited myself in that way. And there's an example of where I did put a roof on myself. And had I not had that roof, had I had a better plan, things could have been a bit different.
Mm. I love that. And there's an analogy with the way we work in software development. And I don't know how familiar you are with agile delivery. So it's that whole concept of, build for what you need next versus trying to think ahead to what the perfect ending is. Because by the time you built that perfect ending, say it's the 5-bedroom house you think you need, by the time you finish building that 5-bedroom house, actually 3 of your children have left for university already. So make it relevant. So I think that have the rough plan. That's excellent advice, because the rough plan is for now. Know that it can change, but if you have that plan, it gives you direction. Before we kind of come to wrapping up our chat with you, because I know we've done it all day, I'd love to talk to you for longer. I'm really interested in just what you were saying earlier around your travel and just being open and looking at what's there. And I think that ethos seems to have carried through with you really well into your career. I don't think everyone's necessarily that aware of what partnership work is. It might be great for us to just take just a minute and just expand on sort of what that looks like in a day to day. I've spent a bit of time working in partnerships, and it might be a bit different in your role. Would you mind just sort of giving everyone just like a little summary of what it means to you?
Sure. So I guess a better way to put it is strategic partnership. So what that means is, yes, every company is a company in and of itself, but in a very general sense, in a societal sense, we're all a team, right? So over here in W30 Labs, we do blockchain services. However, if we don't have any partners, if we don't have a team, who are we providing these services to? So it's really just about, okay, here's Girls in Tech, an entirely different organization that exists in an entirely different industry, but we're going to form some sort of a relationship. So managing a relationship on, well, this is what Girls in Tech does. This is what W30 Labs does. How can we make a marriage between that in a way where both organizations can benefit from that? And then it's after that foundation has been built and what that relationship looks like has been built, it's about nurturing that relationship. Because sometimes you find a partner is just so valuable, you just want to keep it going for as long as possible. So that's what it is. That's why I likened it to being a sales agent, because you need to sell what you do, but have a deep understanding of what the organization that you're reaching out to does. So you sell your product, knowing you've understood theirs, and then you just build a hopefully meaningful relationship over that.
Mutually beneficial.
Yes.
That sounds fantastic. I'm thinking if I was listening to your story and I was sort of just about to leave school, I'd be hearing a lot of areas that I could potentially work in tech that I hadn't thought about. Because I certainly, when I started out in this industry, and I was already in my 30s when I started out in the industry, I assumed that everyone had to be highly, highly technical. So thank goodness not, or I wouldn't be employed. But it's good to hear you talk about what it means to you and what kind of skill set you could come into tech with. Why do you think this is a great sector for young girls to consider. If someone's listening to you chat, what is the kind of parting shot you'd like to leave with them to say, this is why I'd love you to consider working in this industry?
So that's a really important question. And it's funny because I was writing a LinkedIn post for myself to post, and that was kind of the topic. I think as women in any work environment, we often feel on the back foot, as in we often question, okay, am I here because someone liked what I look like? Or am I here because I got a million, I passed my degree, with like 75% average, whatever that is. So we're always questioning, why am I in the room that I am in? And that also extends into the tech space. It's a largely male dominated space. I mean, few and far between are you finding women. And when you do find them, you're just so excited to connect with them. So I think it's a really important space for girls to get involved in because, one, it's not as overwhelming as we think it is. I am, like you said, Monique, my role isn't super technical. I can't program software. I don't know any of that stuff, but I still work in tech. Okay, yes, I have a basic understanding of it, but it's not, building an app. And secondly, when we look at the way the world is going, I mean, we've already entered the fourth industrial revolution, and it's exactly this. It's like a rapid revolutionary era of tech. So in order to keep up with the demands of the world, this industry is just going to grow and grow. Tech is just going to grow and grow, which means there are so many opportunities already in this industry. And if more women were interested in it and knew that it wasn't just about the overwhelming stuff like learning how to code or learning how to build programs, then I think they would want to be interested. So it's important to have conversations like this so they know if you look closely enough or you look in with excruciating detail, there is room for you here.
Wow, thank you so much. That's amazing. Thank you for taking this time to speak with us and sharing your insights and experiences. I think it's been truly valuable and inspiring, and I really feel it's something in our community needed to hear. So thank you for that.
Not a problem. I'm so glad I could share, and I'm excited to see what comes of it.
Yeah, I think we're going to stay in touch, and I think hopefully we're going to have you involved a little bit more in our ambassador series. And certainly there might be some opportunities for us to actually just share more with our membership base, really, what is blockchain about? Because I think it is still such a mystery to people. So thanks for opening that door for us. That's really great. And yeah, it was brilliant to have you here. And to anyone listening, go and research partnerships, sales, delivery, opportunities, and tech. There's lots out there. Radiyya, thank you for your time, and we will see you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye, Nicole.
Bye.